Hello and welcome to our 43rd session. So far in this series, we have been increasing difficulty by adding more enemies, faster enemies and powerful abilities. But now it's time to do something more exciting. In this session, we are going to design an expert level boss battle. A boss that doesn't just chase the player, but actively changes how the game is played. The boss is not just a bigger enemy. A boss appears only after certain waves, has special abilities, and most importantly, span mini enemies while the fight is still going on. So now you doesn't have any boss enemy. So I will just tap here and remove off all the players. Now you have the boss enemy, and when you have boss enemy, you can see the enemies keep spawning. The enemies are getting added until the boss enemy is there, and once the boss enemy is destroyed, all other enemies can be moved and destroyed. As usual, let us start by launching Unity Hub. Come into the project and you can start with this tilting_island 10 project. But if you doesn't have this previous project, do not worry, come into new project. I am now going to call this project as tilting_island 11. SRP Universal 3D template is selected and click on create project. As Unity project is getting created, come into the YouTube video page or the e-learning page, scroll down, and in the description if you click on more, you are provided with a Patreon link. Click on this Patreon link. Come into the Junior Programmer Series page, and if you scroll down, you have this 43 boss enemy start Unity package file. Click on it to download it. If you need this Sartvic_layout.wlt file for layout, you can click and download it. Once Unity is launched, come into the project panel, select this Readme file, come into the inspector, click on this remove Readme assets, and in the confirmation box, click on proceed. In the project panel, select this input system_action. We don't need it. Right click and select delete, and in the confirmation box, click delete. If your layout doesn't look like the layout that you are seeing here, you can come on the right hand side and in this layout panel, choose the Sartvic layout. If Sartvic layout is not present, come into load layout from file, browse to your download folder, select this Sartvic_layout.wlt file, click and open it. Come to the project panel, asset, right click, choose import package, custom package, browse to your download folder and select the 43 boss enemy start.unity package which you downloaded just now and click on open. Now here in the import unity package dialog box, see that all is selected and click on the import button. Now once it is imported, come into the scene and double click tilting island to open it. We don't need this sample scene file. Right click, choose delete, and in the confirmation box, click on delete. Now to add this boss enemy and make it spawn mini enemies, we are going to start with the enemy script. So I will come into the project panel and in script, select the enemy script, double click to open this. First we are going to declare a few variables. After this private game object player, I will press enter and I will add 2 forward slashes, and the first variable is boss future enabled. I am going to declare a public boolean and I am going to call boss and end it with semicolon. This enemy script will be attached to all enemies, and whichever enemy object has this boss switched on, it will act as the boss enemy. I will press enter and this variable is going to determine the span interval time, and I am going to call this again as public, and this is a float number and I will call this as span interval and end it with semicolon. Now the third variable to count number of mini enemies span public, I am going to declare it as an integer, not float, because this should be a whole number, and I will call this as MiniEnemy span count and end it with semicolon. And finally, I want a variable to calculate the next span time. I will declare a private variable. This is a float variable. I will call this as next spawn, end it with semicolon, and finally I will declare a variable to reference of SpawnManager, because we are going to refer SpawnManager script from the enemy script. So I am going to declare a private. The type of this variable is, it is a span manager, and I am going to set its name as span manager and end it with semicolon. So we have all our variables now declared. Now next we are going to initialize this boss logic. For that I will come into the void start method, press enter, and I am going to test a condition. If add open close bracket, and inside this I am going to test is boss, and if is boss is true, press enter, add open close flower bracket, and inside this I will call my variable span manager and I will set it equal to find first object by type. We are not going to create an array here. If you put find object by type, it will create an array. So I have to use find first object by type, add lesser than greater than sign, and inside this the type I need is span manager, and I will come out of this greater than sign, add open close bracket, and then end it with semicolon. Now next here I am going to come into the update method. After this enemy add force, I will press enter twice, and here also if I will add open close bracket, if this is boss, then I will come out of this close bracket, press enter, add open close flower bracket, and inside this now I am now going to test another condition. If add open close bracket, the current elapsed time dot time is greater than, I will now call my variable next span. Initially it is 0, so it will be greater than 0, and if it is greater than 0, then I press enter, add open close flower bracket, and inside this now first I am going to set my next span value equal to current time dot time plus the span interval time that we have declared as a variable, and I will end it with semicolon. I am next going to call my span manager period. I am going to declare a new method. I have not done it still now. I will call this as SpawnMiniEnemy, add open close bracket and end it with semicolon. This SpawnMiniEnemy I have to still declare this in span manager. That's why you are seeing it in red light. And inside this I am going to give a parameter, that is the MiniEnemy span count, and then end it with semicolon. We have completed all the changes in this file. I am going to go to file and save it. You are seeing this error, and to eliminate this error I have to now come into my SpawnManager.cs file. I will open this. I have to declare some 3 variables here. So I will come here after line number 14. I will press enter, add 2 forward slashes, variable to hold the game object boss prefab. I am going to now declare a game object, and this is a reference for my, so I will call it as boss prefab and end it with semicolon. Next, create array to hold the mini enemies. Boss prefab is going to span some mini enemies, and to hold it I will come into public game object, and here I will add open close square bracket. This makes it an array, and I am going to call this as MiniEnemy prefabs and end it with semicolon. Here array I have made a spelling mistake. I will change it. Forward slashes. I am going to declare variable to hold the boss round. I am going to declare a public integer, and I am going to call it as boss round. For every 2 or for every 3 waves, 1 boss enemy wave will be spanned. Now after this I will scroll down, coming down, and after this span power up I will come after this close flower bracket, press enter, and we are going to now declare 2 methods. One is public and one is private. First I will declare a private variable which I am going to use it in this script only, that is void, and I am going to call this as SpawnBossWave, and in open close parameter inside this I will declare an integer, and I will call this as current round. Coming out of this bracket, press enter, add open close flower bracket, and inside this flower bracket first I am going to declare a variable int MiniEnemy to span. I will end it with semicolon. To calculate which round the boss has to be spanned, I am going to do a calculation, and in this calculation we don't want to divide by 0. I am going to do a check if, and here I will check boss round. If it is not equal to 0, under this condition I will press enter, add open close flower bracket, and inside this I am now going to call my MiniEnemies to span. I am going to set its value equal to current round divided by my boss round and end it with semicolon. If this condition is not true, I will add else, press enter, add open close flower bracket, and inside this now I will set my MiniEnemies to span value equal to 1. I will come out of this entire if statement here. I will press enter twice, and then I am now going to declare a variable called as boss. I will make it equal to an instantiated object. Add open close bracket and end it with semicolon. The object that we are going to instantiate is our boss prefab, comma. The position we are going to get it from generate spawn position method, add open close bracket, comma. And for rotation, I will call my boss prefab period transform period rotation. So this is going to instantiate boss prefab and it will be attached to this boss. Then I will press enter, and in this boss I am going to get component, add lesser than greater than sign, and the component I am going to get is the enemy. And I will come out of this greater than sign, add open close bracket period. I am now going to call this MiniEnemy spawn count, and I am going to set it equal to the MiniEnemies to span value. Now the next method that I am going to declare, for that I am going to use the same logic that we used in SpawnEnemy. We used the for loop and we used this random range and we instantiated it. I will come after this void SpawnBossWave, after this close flower bracket, press enter twice, and this will be a public void method, and I am going to call this SpawnMiniEnemy and add open close bracket. See, this name should be the same as we have used in the Enemy.cs file. So whatever name we are using here, SpawnMiniEnemy, so the same name I have to give it here. Inside this I am now going to declare a parameter which is an integer, and I am going to call it as amount, and then I will press enter, add open close flower bracket, and inside this flower bracket first I am going to call this for loop, add open close bracket, and inside this integer I is equal to 0 semicolon, then I is less than amount. Till the I value is less than amount, this loop is going to run semicolon. Then I am going to increment this I by using I++. I will come out of the bracket, press enter, add open close flower brackets, and inside this flower bracket I am going to declare an integer, and I am going to call this as random mini, and this will be equal to a random range number. Add open close bracket, end it with semicolon, and the range is starting is 0, and for ending I will call this MiniEnemy prefab period let. I will press enter, and now we are going to instantiate, add open close bracket, end it with semicolon, and the game object we are going to instantiate is the MiniEnemy prefab, and here I am now going to add open close square bracket, and inside this the index number will be coming from this random mini. After this I am going to add a comma. The position will be from generate span position, add open close bracket, and end it with comma. For rotation I will again call this MiniEnemy prefabs and I will add open close square bracket, and inside this I will call this random mini value, and this game object I am going to call the transform function, and in that I will call the rotation function. So this is now going to instantiate my enemy. This is what we have added in the SpawnMiniEnemy function. Now I will scroll up to the update, and here you can see that we had set the spanning happen when our enemy count becomes equal to 0. So if enemy count is equal to 0, we incremented the wave number, and then here I will press enter, and I am going to test a condition here. If add open close bracket, and here inside this if wave number, and I am going to add a modulus, means I am going to take the remainder of multiplying wave number by boss round, and if this is equal to 0, say for example if I want the boss round to be spanned after every 2 rounds, then when wave number is 1 and boss number is 2, the remainder will not be 0, but when both becomes 2, it becomes 0. When wave number becomes 4, then it becomes 0, because 4 modulus 2 is 0. Modulus is nothing but the remainder we get by dividing. So by using this condition, I will just press enter and add open close flower bracket, and inside this flower bracket I am now going to call my SpawnBossWave, add open close bracket, end it with semicolon, and the parameter here I am going to give is the wave number. If this condition is not true, then else add open close flower bracket. I will come to the next line, and inside this open close flower bracket now I am going to take this SpawnEnemy wave number. I will select this, cut it and put it inside this. Now span power up remains as it is. I will go to file and save it. If I set the boss round to 2, it means that for every 2 rounds I want my boss enemy to be spanned. When wave number is 1, it won't span. When it becomes 2, it spans. 3, it won't span. 4, it will span, because when wave number is divided by boss round, you have to get 0. So by this we can span the boss round at regular intervals, and this interval number is given in the variable boss round. So with this we have successfully completed our coding job. So I will go to file and save this SpawnManager.cs. If I come to Enemy.cs, you no more see the error, because this particular method is now declared. I will go to file and choose save to save both the files. Now coming back to Unity, I will come into the hierarchy, right click, and I am going to create a new 3D object, sphere, and I am going to call this as boss enemy. I will come here into position, reset it to 0, 0, 0, and in scale I will enable constraint proportion and I will scale it to 2.5. I will come into the scene view and press F to zoom in. I will add a special material to this. I will come here into course library and I will open material, and I am going to select this polygon prototype texture grid 7. I will select this material and I am going to press Ctrl D to duplicate it. Now I will press F2 and I am going to call this material as polygon prototype underscore boss enemy. Then in the base map, I will click here and I am going to select some different color, cyan tint color to it. Come here into boss enemy and I will come into materials, and in element, I am now going to drag this polygon prototype boss enemy and attach it to this. So this is our boss enemy. I will come into add component, and first I am going to add rigid body to it. Sphere collider is already there. I will leave everything default as it is, and then click on add component, and also I am going to add the enemy component to it. Scrolling down, in the enemy component I will enable eBoss. I will set the span interval value to 2, and also I will move up in the sphere collider. in the project panel, we had created one physics material Bouncy. I will drag this Bouncy material and put it in sphere collider, this physics material. Then scrolling down in enemy, I will set the attack speed, I will reduce it to 2, span interval, I will increase it to 3. Next, we are going to convert this into a prefab. I am going to take this from the hierarchy and drag it into the project panel and drop it inside my prefab folder. And I will come back to the hierarchy, select the boss enemy, and I am going to delete it. For our mini enemy, we are going to make use of these 5 enemies which we have already created here. So I will select enemy 1 here, press Ctrl D to duplicate, and I am going to press F2 and I will call this as MiniEnemy 1. With MiniEnemy 1 selected, come into the inspector and click on open. In the scale, I will set its scale value to 1. To make my MiniEnemy 1 look a little different from other enemies, I will use a different material. So if you come in the asset course library, you have materials here. I am going to select this polygon prototype texture grid 3. You can select any material here, press Ctrl D to duplicate, press F2, and I am going to call this as MiniEnemy underscore material. I will come into the inspector and in the surface input base map, I will click here and I will select some purple tint color like this and I will close this. I will come back into my project panel, select MiniEnemy 1, and here in the inspector, if you come into the mesh renderer, open this material. Now drag this MiniEnemy material and attach it to this element 0. I am going to set this MiniEnemy 1 attack speed 8. And then I will select MiniEnemy 1, press Ctrl D to duplicate, and I will press F2, and I am going to call this as MiniEnemy 2, and for this MiniEnemy 2, I will set the attack speed to 12. Now coming into the hierarchy panel, I will select the SpawnManager. Right now you have enemy prefab 5, power up prefab 3, and for boss prefab we doesn't have any game object attached. Now come into the project panel and in my prefab drag your boss enemy and attach it to this boss prefab. You have MiniEnemy prefab, open this. This is a array. And the first element in the array, I am going to attach here the MiniEnemy 1 here. I will click plus and I will drag and attach MiniEnemy 2. And finally, for this boss round, I will set this value to 2. Come to file and save this. Now if I play the game, and if I check it, see now in the first stage, I have the regular enemies appearing. So I will discharge these rockets and I am going to destroy it. And in the second round, now you have the boss enemy and you can see the mini prefabs that is spanned by the boss enemy. Stop the playback. I want you to upload this to the Unity Play. So you can come into File, come into Build Profile, choose Web as your build profile and click on Switch Platform. Now come into Player Setting and in the company name, you can give your own name here. Then if you scroll down, I will come into Resolution and Presentation. I will open this. I will set its size to 1270 by 720 and then I will use progressive web app. I will scroll down to publish setting and in compression format I will disable the compression. I will close this player setting and now in the build profile I will come into open scene list. I will select this sample scene, right click and I will choose remove selection and click on add open scene. Tilting island scene is now added. Come into web, I am going to click on the build button, create a folder called web and choose this folder, and once you select the folder, the build process is going to start. Now once the build is complete, open the web folder, select all the files here, right click and compress it to a zip file. Come into your browser and choose Unity Play. Come to this play.unity.com website and on the right side avatar icon, click on sign in. Sign in with your Unity ID and password. Once you are signed in, click on the upload button here. Either click on the upload here or drag the zipped file onto this upload area and allow the file to get uploaded. Meanwhile, come to the title and I am now going to call this as Tilting Island Game, and in the description use A and D or arrow keys to rotate, space to smash and F to fire rockets. And you can also upload a thumbnail. I can click on upload thumbnail and I can select an image here. Finally, if I click on save, now this game is ready. So if you click on the play button, you can now play the game and this game is now working fine.